I am SA with the Author Sesh Corner, and I am with my co-host, Wren Nightingale. And today we are interviewing indie author Noel Brooks, who writes romance, correct?
Yes. I do, I have a couple different genres. They're all but there's, I have small town, fantasy, rockstar, and hockey.
All right. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
That's a great question. I've been writing since I was about 10, and I don't know, I'm not a very interesting person.
That's a lie.
This is the one question I didn't write down, because I was like, I know enough about myself. And then you ask me, and I'm blanking on it. I've been writing since I was about 10. Writing is something I've always enjoyed doing. It's only recently that I published books when I was 16. And that's kind of, I guess, my author story. I like doing graphic design, and I've been trying to get more into that lately. But I don't really do a lot of interesting things.
Well, that's okay.
And there's a little more to the story of how I got started with this. It was I had my mom and like her editor and all her author friends had wanted me to publish for a long time, and I just never wanted to. But it was when Hurricane Helene happened. It kind of wiped out my whole area, and there was a charity anthology organized to raise money for the victims of Hurricane Helene. And the author was kind enough to let me put a story in at 16, and that was my entry into the indie world.
You know, that's really cool though, doing that so young, because not a lot of people, you know, can publish a book that young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a really unique experience, and there were a lot of setbacks with my age, which is why I was so happy that Janine Bosco let me put my story in the anthology. And this light is going to drive me crazy. Okay. The lamp kept going on and off, so I turned it off.
So what is the title of your book or books? And then can you tell us a little bit about them?
I have 5 books so far, and my first one is Coming Home. It's a small town romance. It's about childhood friends to lovers. My second book is Tied to You. It's a superhero fantasy romance. I have a hard time putting that one in a specific genre, because it's action and adventure, mystery, heist, romance, fantasy. So that one's complicated. And then I have Coming Home for Christmas, which is the sequel to Coming Home. It's also small town. I have a rockstar romance, that's Suspicious Murmurs. And then I have a hockey, Enemies to Lovers, that's Off the Ice.
Teamwork, Fred.
Sorry, I was writing down all your titles and how you were putting them in, and SA did the last one at the same time as me.
Okay. How did you choose your title, and does it hold significance?
Coming Home, when I wrote it, I didn't know it had to have a title. I thought I could just slide it into the anthology. And so I went to submit it, and my mom was like, you have to title it. And I was like, I don't want to title it. And she was like, Coming Home, because that was the basis of the story, is he moves back home after like 5 years of being gone and reunites with his childhood friend, so she's coming home. She helped me title most of my books, but I got the idea for the title for Off the Ice because there's one important line where he says, we're nothing off the ice. And I wrote it and I was like, hey, off the ice.
Hey, there you go.
Great
Sometimes
title.
it works like that. How do you come up with the character names, and what's the process for that?
For character names, I usually search up name lists, and it usually takes me to baby name list, which is not helping the parenting ad situation that we talked about last time. Not helpful, but I usually get them all from like parenting websites and list of baby names. Sometimes Reddit has good names, but
Hmm.
You've got to look for them. Sometimes there's not good names.
No.
There are some really off the wall names that I've come across.
Yeah, I was trying to name a dance club in Off the Ice, and I was like, well, Reddit, people are creative. Those were some of the most outrageous names. Like, they're funny, but you can't use them. So that was interesting.
What kind of genre do you seem to gravitate towards?
I usually always, like, it's always been romance, kind of that genre. I do genre hop with, like, the small town, the fantasy, and the rock star. I guess those subgenres? I should know this. But I usually stick with romance.
What advice would you give someone writing in your genre? And as you're answering, I'll be right back because I need some Tums.
I didn't write the answer down to this question. I don't think I saw it. I think the best advice I'd give is just for writing in general is write what you want to write and don't worry about what other people would think. Don't worry about how they're going to judge it or what they might say. Just write what you love and do it if you want to do it. And if it makes you happy, I think that's all that really matters.
Here, I'll share my input too. Advice I would give someone writing in romance, even though I don't write just general romance because I have to have plot and like action and stuff. But either write your experience with romance or what you picture romance being. So, that is also some advice you could give.
Yeah, I like to use the advice, write what you know. It's easier, in my opinion, to write things that you're familiar with or things that you want to experience. I don't have a lot of experience with romance in person, but I know what I would want from it. And that's usually what I end up writing.
What I asked the last one.
You asked about the genre? Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah.
You'll find out this is normal for us.
It makes me feel better because I'm so nervous of like not having an answer, and I'm like, I gotta know what I have to say.
No, there's like very rarely any time that we're like actually on point and professional, but 90% of the time we're like, no, it's your turn.
Well, there was one interview we did that I kept repeating questions that she asked. We made a blooper out of it. It was so freaking funny. I don't know if I kept zoning out or I just wasn't registering or the questions weren't getting crossed out when we read them. So it was like, did you use a functional outline or was it just chaos that somehow worked?
I've written all my books differently. Coming home, I didn't have an outline. I just wrote what I wanted to. But I'm not lying when I say I wrote Tied to You backwards. I started with the climax, the ending scene, and then went backwards for all the events that led up to it. The prologue was the very last thing I ever wrote for that book. And I would not recommend doing that. The timeline was chaos. I wrote that one backwards. And then I've written everything it's all different. Sometimes I have a plan and sometimes I just put words down and hope it goes somewhere.
So I actually know how you feel because I did that with the book I just released. I got stuck at chapter 18, so I start working backwards, and then I kind of got stuck, and I'm like, wait, I'm gonna mess this all up because I had to go back.
I would solve a plot point and then introduce a new problem and have to go back and solve it, and I was like, the book's never gonna end.
How many drafts did you go through to get to your finished product?
I usually kind of write the first draft and then I'm kind of editing it and making it better as I'm still writing it. I know with Off the Ice, I think that one was about my 4th or 5th draft because I had to change the timeline a few times. Yeah, so maybe 3 or 4 drafts, usually.
Whether it be publish or whip, who is your favorite character and why?
Probably, his name's Varian Walker. He's my favorite character because I just love his personality. He's a superhero who's been forced to do some not so good things, but he's not a bad guy. He's trying to do the best that he can for everyone. And I just really like his personality.
Is there a particular scene or passage you're incredibly proud of?
I think the favorite scene I've ever written was at the end of Suspicious Murmurs, they go to an amusement park, and there's a scene on the Ferris wheel where they're talking and watching the sunset, and I think that's my favorite scene I ever wrote because in my opinion, I think I did really good describing the scenery around them and the emotions of the characters.
Hardest part of the writing process.
I don't like proofreading because there's always an issue with my timeline and it drives me crazy. So I think that's probably my least favorite part, the proofreading. Everything at the end. I like to write and I don't like to do anything else.
I feel that.
So do I. I think we all do.
Which passage gave you the most difficulty?
I didn't write that question down. I looked at the old list of questions you sent, and not the new ones.
Oh,
That's okay. Still on
well,
there.
how about if it helps narrow it down? Was there a section that required a lot of revisions?
Yes, in Tied to Fate, which is a sequel to Tied to You that's not out yet. I'm still working on it. I had changed the plot so many times, and I ended up having to rewrite the climax. I think there's 4 different versions of it, because I wrote a plot-heavy book without fully knowing the plot.
Oh.
And because I was like, I can work it out later. And not realizing that one little change would redo the whole book. And it was like,
Oh.
if you're going to write a plot-heavy book, make sure you have an idea of the plot.
I get that.
Did you cut anything specific from the final version? And if so, from which published book?
There's been a couple deleted scenes. I think Tied to Fate, the one I'm working on now, probably has the most deleted scenes. I had to delete the entire first chapter because it no longer went with the story anymore. And there's a scene in Off the Ice where they're all hanging out at Luca's house that I ended up taking out because it didn't fit. It didn't fit in with Finn's character at the time. I needed him to be still closed off, and so him hanging out with his friends just didn't fit what he was going through. But I still have that scene because it was a cute scene. It just did not work.
You know, I don't know if it's a thing. I know in like movies they have bloopers, but I don't think I've ever came across a book that had deleted scenes.
I've come across a couple. They have them in the usually after the afterword. There's usually a bonus where it's like I've seen a couple deleted scenes. I still hang on to mine though because I might reuse them in a different book in the future.
Mm.
Okay. I mean,
I have done that.
I know I read a book that had an alternate ending. It was I think it was 12 Reasons Why, and it was special edition, and the author put in the alternate ending for it.
That's cool. I don't think I've ever seen alternate endings.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting. I was like, oh, that would have made it completely different.
Yeah.
How has your writing evolved since you first began publishing?
I think since I first published, I think I've gotten a lot better at I used to never introduce the characters or describe what they looked like. If you read Coming Home, I don't really say anything about what they look like. They're just there. And so I think I got a lot better at character descriptions and also describing scenery. Like I would used to just say like, he walked into a room and I would not tell you what room, why he was in there, what it looked like. And so I got better at just describing scenes, where they are, what's going on.
Or it could be one of those books where you're just like, you're gonna have to figure it out yourself. I don't know.
That's why I went with Coming Home. There was, when we were going over editing it, there were a lot of things where my editor was like, you have to know what you're talking about, because I would say, over there, or that thing. You know, he had to do that thing that important thing. And, well, what's the thing? And I did that in Tied to You. I kept saying, like, the war, the horrible war. And it's like, you're gonna have to write the war. Or say something else about it. So I think I've gotten better at describing things and not just brushing them off.
There you go.
That's my favorite. I love being descriptive.
I hate it, but I have to do it. It depends on what it is. I'll give you, like, a bunch of details about some random object, but I won't tell you what the character looks like, because I don't know what he looks like.
Yeah, like I can do architecture descriptions, but if it comes to clothing, I don't know. I have to look up what piece of clothing's names are, and I just can't get into it.
Yeah, there's...
When it comes to the characters, I've always been told, keep the characters kind of vague. Let the readers kind of imagine themselves. But when it comes to, like, places and, like, scenery, that's where you want to get the more description down.
That's usually what I try to do. In the chat, yeah, that is exactly what the book looked like. It's saying, that horrible war that happened years ago. And it was like, what war? When did it happen? Why did it happen?
You know, the horrible one.
I ended up having to write more about it, give more backstory in the sequel, because that's how vague Tied to You still is. But I think I finally got the war described.
Sometimes it works out like that, though, because if it gets vaguely mentioned in the first book, but you do describe it in the second book, I feel like that pulls in readers a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you made it work.
Can you share a personal life experience that inspired a character or scene?
Yeah, about pretty much all of Off the Ice is inspired by my experience. The main character, Finn, he ends up having the same injury that I did. He tears the labrum in his hip, which is the ring of cartilage. I did that. It sucks. Wouldn't recommend. But his entire experience with his injury in the aftermath and his emotions about it was kind of like getting to tell my story again, which I really appreciated.
Do you think about your audience or write primarily for yourself?
I usually write for myself. I try to keep in mind what readers might want to see, but I got started writing what I was passionate about, and that seems to work for me, for the most part. I take that back. I did write Off the Ice. I wrote it to market it, because MM hockey's trending right now, but still the main part of the story was something I enjoyed.
Fair.
Someone in the chat wanted to clarify, what did you tear in the hip?
So the labrum is the ring of cartilage that cushions your hip socket. It keeps your thigh bone from touching your hip bone. So when it tears away, your bones touch, and it's excruciating would not be an understatement. It's horrible, but yeah, it's a ring of cartilage. You have them in your shoulders too, and you can tear those too.
Oh, that thing.
Yeah, that thing. I'm very familiar with that thing. I hate it.
That doesn't sound great.
What was nice about writing Off the Ice was that I did not have to do research about it. When he gets injured, I didn't have to think about how it felt. And when they get him to the hospital, I didn't have to look up the surgery or the recovery, because I had done it twice. I tore both and had to have 2 surgeries.
Oof.
At least I learned something from that experience and got to make a book out of it, so I'm happy.
There you go.
Happy as you can be.
Have your books changed you?
Yeah, I think I wrote the answer down somewhere. Whatever. Wait. Yeah, I think I've matured a lot since I published, and that could also just be, natural aging because, I was 16, now I'm 18, but I've learned just a lot about people, and when you're writing romance, you have to kind of study relationships, and so I've learned a lot about romance in that aspect, but I've also gotten to meet so many new people and be introduced into a completely different world. Well, I was already kind of in the book world with my mom being published, but I got introduced to a whole new side of it as an author and getting to meet other authors and getting to travel to go to book signings. I think like I think I grew up like a lot from it, like I noticed at my last book signing that I acted a lot differently than I did at my first one. Like I wasn't so nervous. I don't really second guess myself anymore. I think it's really taught me a lot about confidence and believing in yourself.
That is 100% true. I will agree with you on that one. What was your research process like, and did you uncover anything surprising or fascinating without spoiling details?
So, for Tied to Fate, this is going to sound really bad, but it's not what you think. For the plot, I had to figure out how much. I wrote down the exact number. Yeah, I had to figure out how much 200 superhuman babies would go for 100 years in the future. The answer is 21 million US dollars if you're curious, counting interest and taxes. But that was the craziest thing to research, because I'm like, okay, I have to figure out how much the average baby goes for and not get put on a watch list and not come across something I don't want to come across. And I was like, and then I gotta figure out how much that would be when you add superpowers and then 100 years of interest. Luckily, I know someone who used to work in Child Protective Services. They had an answer for the average price.
Wait, the fact that they had an answer is crazy.
Right? And I wasn't the first one who asked that question. For something my mom was writing, she had needed to know the answer, and her editor, Tina, had it. And so then when I needed the answer, they both already had it.
Someone's got their notebook and pen out. How long did completing this book or books from the initial concept to publication take you?
I started writing Tied to Fate last August, right after my first surgery. And I just now finished it up, but I took like a 5-month-long break somewhere in between there. I'd say my books usually take anywhere from about like 6 months to a year to finish. I wrote Coming Home in a week, and I don't think I will ever do that again. That was my first book, and I was just so excited and did not leave my room or my computer, and I don't think I'd ever be able to do that again.
I don't think I could write one line in a week. That's a lot.
It was easier for me because I had wanted to write Coming Home for years, but I didn't have the confidence in myself to be able to create my own world and new characters. And so I just had the idea there. So when I started writing it, I already knew everything that I wanted to happen, and it was just putting it into words. But yeah, that was a one-hit wonder. Yeah, so my mom's in the chat. We were both doing the anthology together. And I had finished my 9,000 word snippet and then wrote the whole book, and I came into her bedroom. I was like, I'm done. And she went, oh, you have your piece? And I went, no, I have the book. Or something like that. I was like, no, I've got the anthology piece, but I've got the book now.
Oh my goodness.
What? Kudos, Noel. Kudos.
Yeah. That's dedication right there.
It was like I realized how freeing it was to not be stuck to fanfic where, like, I realized that my characters could never be out of character because they were my characters. And I realized I had writing freedom and just did not put the pen down.
How do you personally handle feedback and criticism?
It took me a long time to learn to not internalize criticism. If someone says they don't like my book, they're not saying they don't like me as a person. They're just saying they don't like the book. And so it took me a long time to separate that. And also, when you're writing LGBTQ romance, there's just a lot of people that don't like that, especially in the area I live in. And it took me a long time to realize, if someone like scoffs or rolls their eyes or says my book's disgusting, that's not them saying I'm disgusting. That's just how they feel, and I can't change that.
Mhm.
But it was really jarring to come from writing fanfic, where on AO3 everyone is so supportive. You don't criticize, you just lift each other up. So to go from AO3 to a place where people will just come up to you and be like, "Your book sucked," it's like, okay, that was jarring. But once I learned not to internalize what they said, that really helped me handle it better.
I think it also helps too. We're coming into an age where romance is so much more like accepted, along with like sapphic fantasy and everything like that. So I think you came in at a really good like escalation point for it.
Yeah, because for years, I used to read MM and like I wouldn't say it because when I did, people would be like, "You read that?" And it's there's just so much hate from some people that I'll never understand.
Yeah, that's one thing that you have to take in account as being a writer. Not everyone's gonna like it.
Yeah.
You're gonna have the people who are gonna say they didn't like it. There's some that's gonna have reasons, some that's not. I mean,
and usually the people who don't like something are louder than the ones who like it. If you read a good book, it's like, "Oh wow, I love that book." But if you for most people, they read a book, they don't like it, and they feel the need to say that. And there's also a lot of people who cannot tell the difference between "I don't like it" and "it's bad." I call some people, the people who just always put 1 stars, I call them hater raters. Like, if you look at like their page and every single review they've ever posted is like 2 stars, 1 star, I don't really listen to those people.
Like, maybe you should just stop reading. Obviously, reading's not for you.
Right? I'm like, okay, you hate every book you've ever picked up, but you keep picking them up and then telling them you hate it. Just maybe it's not your hobby, and that's okay.
So I was told to look at the 3 stars. 3 stars are where they're the most honest and where they give the best opinions.
Yeah. I think this is gonna sound so backwards. One of the nicest, or one of the best reviews I ever got was a 2-star review. Because she was very polite, and it was genuinely good criticism that I have used now in the future. I'm like, yeah, I see, good point, I see that. And I've worked on it. But that was probably the nicest review I ever got, because it was helpful and honest.
Another thing, because from my book club, a lot of people from my book club have read my stuff, and one of them did give me a 3-star. And I asked her, I'm like, because she didn't really leave a reason why. So I asked her, and she's like, I thought it was good, but it was not, it's not my genre. I don't really read fantasy, but for what it was good. But I don't give away 5 stars unless it left me wow. If it's a 4 stars, it means I'll come back and read it. 3 stars are usually what I average. So that's also another thing you gotta take into account. Some people are like review sticklers. Yeah. So they may like it, but they still may review it low.
Yeah.
So rate it low, not review it low. Do you show anyone your progress? And how do you determine when a piece is finished?
I don't usually show people the book while it's still being worked on, but when I feel like it's finished or close to being finished, I'll share it to a couple close friends and like to my editor. And I think I usually decide a book is finished when I'm proofreading it and I can't think of anything else to add. There are sometimes I'll be reading over a book and I'm like, this needs more. There should be this scene here. And when I get to the point where I'm reading through it and can't think of what else there needs to be, that's when I consider it done. Oh, well, yeah, my mom gets to see it in progress. I think she's the only one who gets to see it when it's like halfway done. I don't know if you guys can hear her laugh. I heard her laugh from up here.
Yeah. I heard something.
What part of your story really stuck with you, and why?
I think Finn's story and Off the Ice, I think his story really stuck with me because it gave me the opportunity to look at my experience in a different light. I really had to think about how I felt, because when I was going through the injury and having to quit my sport and kind of having all my friends just kind of left, that was a really low point, and I'm good at kind of avoiding those feelings and not really thinking about how much it sucked. And so riding off the ice, I really got to look at how I felt in a different light and get to explore those feelings, and also see, oh, I had a point and I lost it. And see that, see someone else go through it, and just, it was very validating that, it was something that I went through that sucked, and I was okay at the end. So it's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
I think we are the least serious interview. I don't know.
I'm like slightly getting distracted by the comments.
I know, I can't remember my answers, can't find them in my notebook.
The questions are a little serious, but I don't know about us.
Yeah.
What part of the story do you think could have been different or changed?
I wrote this down somewhere. I wrote the questions down out of order, which does not help. I remember what the answer was, though. With Coming Home, when I wrote it, I kind of made the story, I lightened it up a lot, because I felt like my original idea was a little too dark for a debut novel, especially for my age at the time. Isaac's backstory was going to be a little darker. And I've thought about, since I'm republishing my books under my own name, I've thought about going back and redoing it. But I think, since Coming Home was my first book that I wrote at 16, I kind of want to keep it the way that it is. It's kind of like a keepsake. So that's one I've thought about changing, but haven't. And another one would be, I think, the prologue for Tied to You, the war I didn't want to write. I think that could use a lot more depth to it, more scenes, expanded a little more. But then again, Tied to You is something I wrote at 16, and they're kind of like keepsakes. I don't want to change them that much.
So to add on this question, and it's not part of the questions, have you thought about doing a second edition?
Mm-hmm.
Like a special edition with extra bonus scenes?
Not special,
or no?
a second.
Second edition?
Because then you can do your changes and do like a cover change and stuff like that. So that's something like, if there's something you want it changed or whatnot, you could always do a second edition.
Yeah, because Tied to You, it's not getting a brand new cover. It's still the same cover illustration. I'm getting it, I'm working with a cover designer, since the first cover was designed by me and my friend, and we were both 16 and have no prior graphic design experience. So it's kind of getting a new cover, and so I could make a second edition. Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Who was your least favorite character and why?
The antagonist in Coming Home, his name's Kane. I could not stand him because, so I'm used to writing fan fiction. I used to write fan fiction for Call of Duty, which was military, and I wrote for MHA, which was superheroes. And so I was used to, you have the antagonist, you kill them off, happy ending. Well, you can't brutally kill a character in a small town romance. And so I was like, I don't know what to do with him. So I think he gets arrested or something, and then I tried to bring him back in a separate book, in a separate series, Suspicious Murmurs, which was rockstar romance. But still, the mood of the book was too light, where I was like, I can't kill this guy again, because if I kill the character off in the book, that's a complete mood change. And so Kane drove me crazy, but I got around it. My mom has a motorcycle club series, and the motorcycle club is set like a city over from where Suspicious Murmurs happens. And I was like, can your MC come and help me? So that's how it gets taken care of. Yeah, he drove me crazy.
I love that you and your mom are intertwining worlds. That's really cool.
We actually just had to work out the relationship between one of the band members, and a club member work out like that whole backstory. So I'll get rid of him. It's not even going to be in my own book, but he's finally off my hands. Yeah, adding to the chat, our dinner conversations would probably get us on a watch list. The things we plot out over dinner, like having to figure out how much money 200 superhuman babies would go for. That was a dinner conversation. I don't remember what we were having, but it was at the dinner table.
Does anyone inspire your characters?
Kane was loosely based off of these two, I don't want to call them bullies, these two guys I knew when I was in middle school who were very manipulative, very controlling, very horrible people. For lack of a better term, I don't want to start throwing out cuss words on live. Very not nice people. And so with Kane, I kind of took their two personalities, threw them into one character, and then amped it up by 10. So Kane loosely, but not like just his personality, not his appearance or anything. And I think, yeah, I don't really have any characters that are based off of one specific person.
How do you handle writer's block?
For me, the best way to handle writer's block, and I hate having to do it, but taking a break seems to help me the most, and I hate doing it because I don't ever want to step away, but that's how I end up getting burned out. So I usually try to focus on, just like touching grass, taking a walk, doing something else to kind of ground me in reality. Actually, this past week took a break from writing and social media because they for me, go together with having to promote my books on social media. So I blocked all the apps on my phone and started focusing on swimming, exercising, and drawing again.
This chat.
It's giving me flashbacks to my Discord server. That's how it goes. They say crazy things. Wait, these are two people from my Discord server. That's why.
Oh.
That's why it reminds me of them. I'm just happy the chat's active this time. Last time I felt like I was talking to when you're watching a Western movie and it's just sand and I forgot the name, those little dry leaves roll by and there's nothing.
Tumbleweed.
Tumbleweed! That's like when it was like, last time it was, anyone have any questions? And it was silence.
Crickets.
Usually the book, the fan fiction interviews are still a little newer. You were our second interview. We just added those in.
Yeah.
But we've been doing these indie author and inspiring for over a year now on my account. So a lot of the people that kind of come through, they're already kind of familiar with this. So we do have a little bit better luck with the original works. But like I said, the fan fiction's still new.
Yeah, and I think last time was the first time I ever went live on my TikTok account, so no one was really expecting me to do it, because I've never shown my face, really.
What do you hope that readers take away from your book?
I think from all of my books, I want the readers to feel like they've learned something. And for the most part, just with the area that I live in the audience I've somehow seemed to get, I want people to see that love can take all forms, and romance isn't always the same, and love isn't always romantic. There's many different kinds of love, and it looks very different for everyone. And so I want when people, read my books, I want them to feel more open-minded at the end, I guess, and have learned something.
What does your writing process look like? Like, do you have a specific time you write? Do you jot down, or do you write in a notebook or on a computer?
My writing process is pretty much different every time. I wrote Off the Ice in my notebook with a pen. I wrote Tied to You backwards. Sometimes I'll write it on my phone, other times I'm on my computer. And sometimes I write at my desk right here, or sometimes I'm writing in my bed. Last night I was writing on the couch on my phone with my family in the living room. There's really not a process. I just start throwing words together somehow and hope it works.
Fair.
Yeah, I do get that from my mom. Her writing office changes every time. She's had 2 offices in this house. Neither one have been used as an office. She'll write like in the bathroom, like on like having like a table set up, like by like I think last time it was like in the center of the bathroom, like in front of the tub. Have her computer there typing. She's written books at the kitchen table, in the living room, outside, I think in the garage. So my inconsistency comes from that.
Well, you gotta write where you're most motivated. Like,
Yeah.
if the mosquitoes weren't so bad outside, I would write more outside, but mosquitoes have been horrible.
I made a post about it. It was a fan fiction, but I was writing it in the pre-op room before my second surgery. I mean, there was no one in there with me. I was waiting for the nurse to come back. You know, and there was just me in the room because my parents hadn't been allowed in yet. And so I didn't want to sit there and worry about surgery, so I got my phone out and started writing. And that's that fic where Bakugo has heart surgery, because, you know, I was in the environment for surgery. Might as well.
What is your typical writing day like?
It's since writing isn't my full-time job, I don't really have a schedule for writing each day. Like I said, I'm usually either here at my desk writing, or I'll be in my bed with my computer writing. These seem to be my 2 main spots. Some days I'll spend 6 hours straight with no breaks. I would not recommend doing that. And other times I would I forgot what I was saying. Oh, and other times I'll write like 2 sentences and forget. Or not forget, like I'll just move on and forget that I'm doing it. So sometimes I'm distracted, and other times I'm just completely focused on it. It's really different.
What does success mean to you as an author?
I think most people define success as like if you're hitting, you know, #1 in every category, you're making millions, everyone knows your name, but I think success is a lot different than that standard definition of it. I think success is I think hitting publish is success, when you finally wrote the story and you got it out there. And success for me is when someone tells me that I made them feel something, and when they tell me that they learned something from my writing, that's what I consider successful.
What kind of point of view do you prefer writing in?
I think I've only ever written in third person. I think just because I'm used to it having come from writing fan fiction, but I always write in third person.
Now, do you write like, what kind of third person do you write?
I used to know all the different kinds. The third person, as it's not focused. The one where it's focused on the one character at a time, not the all-knowing narrator.
I think it's limited.
Yeah, third person limited. I imagine it. The best advice I got for writing third person limited is imagine, like, if it's a movie, the camera is on their shoulder, just kind of right outside their perspective. Yeah, going with the chat, the first person kind of throws me off because I'm not telling you the story the character is, and so that's why third person feels easier to me.
Are there any other projects you're working on behind the scenes that you would like to share?
So I'm working on the sequel to Tied to You that's titled Tied to Fate. I'm hoping to have that one out by the fall, but it seems every time I set a deadline, something goes wrong in my life. So I'm not telling you any dates. We're just aiming for sometime at the end of this year. And then I have outlines for the second and third book in the Off the Ice series that does not have a title yet, because I did not plan to make it a series. But so I'm gonna have a hockey series, and I have the second and third book outlined with that, and then Tied to You's getting a cover, like, glow up. It's the same cover illustration, just some extra details and better formatting.
Fair.
And I think that's it for extra projects.
What platforms do you promote on? Like Facebook, Insta, Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky?
I mainly promote on TikTok and Facebook, but I do have an Instagram for my author stuff.
Okay, that is all of our questions on the list. Like I asked in the chat, if you guys have a question, we can squeeze it in for a few more minutes. So we'll give you like a little bit of time.
I saw earlier someone in the chat mentioned, I think they said when I called Coming Home, I called the 9,000 words a snippet, and they said something about 7,000 words, and I wanted to say, before I wrote Coming Home, my longest work ever was 7,000 words, and that is still long. I called it a snippet because it was the section of the book I had pushed off for the anthology, not that it was short. Will you ever write character death? I don't think I'll ever write main character death, but, you know, side characters are kind of free game. But as long as I'm writing romance, I won't ever write permanent main character death. I won't say what series. I have temporarily killed main characters a few times. I'm trying to think. I've killed my main character, I think it was 21 times temporarily. He's fine. Afterward. Will you ever write books with darker themes outside of romance? In Tied to You and Tied to Fate, I go into darker mental health topics in discussion. There's like violence and stuff, but it's not dark romance, nothing dark between the two characters. I think, unless I read that question wrong.
Well, I think like for example, like romance is your main genre, while you have like, you know, the other stuff being the subgenres. But then you could have like fantasy being your main genre, and then romance is just the subgenre, so it's like the subplot of the book. So I think maybe they were kind of asking something like that.
Thinking of apocalypse or war. I've had ideas for an apocalypse story, but I'd probably still end up making it romance. Probably. Same thing with I did write out the war in Tied to You, and it was still, the whole war was showing like their character development and their relationship. So I think even if I do write darker themes like a horror or thriller, I think I'll always probably turn to romance in some way, even if it's not the main genre.
So, Tied to You. I haven't read it yet, but I read the summary. Is it based off of Bakugo and Izuku? Because that's the vibe I kind of get when I read this.
Not really. With Tied to You, I always feel like I have to say this very carefully, even though it is the truth. The concept of it had started as a fanfic idea, but when I was trying to write it, I was like, they would never lie to each other like this. They'd never go behind each other's backs. The hero system in MHA, I was like, it's not set up like this. I was like, there'd be no reason for them to betray each other and whatnot. And then I realized, I was like, wait. It's like, I can create my own characters who will lie to each other. And I was like, and I can create my own world that has its own problems. So it's not really it has very different superpowers, are very different in it. The world itself is very different, as well as the characters. I've had some people say that Ash reminds them of Bakugo, but I think I'm just a sucker for the brash, grumpy characters. Like the grumpy in Sunshine, that's like my favorite thing ever. Yeah, so no, it was maybe loosely inspired by MHA, but it's not a fanfic that I made a book or something.
I was just curious because I'm like, I wonder if it's kind of based, you know, like not like based off of it like a fanfic, but like the inspo, if they were your inspiration for that particular.
A little bit. I've always loved superheroes. That's how I got into MHA. I've always loved anything superhero, like, you know, Marvel, MHA, any other kind of superhuman shows. So it like loosely inspired by it, yeah. I always feel like that's a very, very careful question to answer.
Thank you so much, Noel, for letting us interview you on your published works.
Thank you guys for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Of course. And thank you all those so much for watching here on TikTok. And you can also please follow the Author Sesh Corner on TikTok as well, so we could start doing interviews there. We have, is it still 31 more followers that we need?
Yep, I'm still sitting at 69 on that account.
So yeah, so we need 31 more followers there in order for us to do our lives over there. You can also follow us on Spotify and YouTube, where we upload the podcast. Please leave a like. Please comment, share. Anything helps. Otherwise, we will see you guys next time, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
And credits to the chat.
And yep,
Yes,
credits to the
thank you, chat. Bye-bye.